Welcome back to another yummy word snack. So I was reading through Acts 15 through 18, and Acts chapter 15 is when the apostles in Jerusalem are writing a letter back to everybody that Paul and Barnabas had gotten born again, and was just helping them along with some of the stuff that they were dealing with, because there were some folk that had gotten born again that were of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And generally, people who have been doing something a certain way want to continue doing it that way. And so they wrote that letter back to him and was like, hey, let's not try to burden everybody with what the Jews were burdened with. And then if you read in chapter 16, Paul and Silas were very, very persecuted. This is when they were beaten with rods, stuck in the bottom of the prison, and then they were singing and praising the Lord, and the Lord caused an earthquake to happen, and it broke open all of the cell doors, and everybody stayed there, and a whole lot of people got born again. And you just see Paul in Thessalonica in chapter 17. It says in verse 5 of chapter 17, but the Jews, becoming jealous and taking along some wicked men from the marketplace, formed a mob and set the city in an uproar, and attacking the house of Jason, they were seeking to bring them out to the people. So they were mad because Paul was persuading some of these people to come to Christ, because he was able to take the scriptures, because of his history, because of his heritage, because of how he was raised in the scriptures. He was able to convince people of the divinity of Christ, of the messiahship, the messiahhood of Jesus. And so they were ticked. And this was my observation. It says, throughout all of time, there have been those who, for reasons of religiosity, have opposed true religion. Opposition to God and his ways is not new nor unheard of, and is often spearheaded by those who consider themselves to be religious, very religious. They consider themselves to be right. We must yearn for a righteousness that comes from above, from God alone, from outside of ourselves, divorced from deeds, good or evil, and bestowed from above. The alternative is to rely on an inferior righteousness of which we are the author, and consequently of which we are very proud and will literally kill others to defend. To me, that's sobering. I think we should be making very sure that what we're doing, we're being led by the Spirit of God to do, and are not just attacking other people because we're very proud of our own righteousness. Because then we just stick ourselves in the same boat that the Pharisees and the Sadducees, the people who were very adamant that Jesus be crucified. We're in their boat. I don't want to be in that boat. How about you? I want to be in God's boat. I want to serve him faithfully, diligently, and I want him to be pleased with my actions. Amen? How about you? Be blessed.